Hello, my name is Amelia and today I'm going to be making focaccia and I'm using a Jim Lahey focaccia recipe. He is a really good baker. I first discovered Jim Lahey in about 2007 maybe, when I was looking for a good pizza dough recipe, and my criteria for pizza dough was lots of bubbles in the dough. So what I did was I searched on Google for pizza dough, bubbly pizza dough, and then I looked at all of the images of all of the different recipes that came up, and the one that looked the airiest and the most bubbly was Jim Lahey's no knead dough recipe. So I've been a huge fan. I've been to Sullivan Street Bakery in New York City. I've eaten focaccia that he actually made that day. This is his My Bread cookbook. I'll link below. Jim Lahey is really great, and if you're into baking and pizza, that is something that you're gonna wanna look into. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends. So let's get started.
This recipe calls for 200 grams of potato cut into 1-inch chunks, and if you don't have a scale, it's about 1 cup of potato chunks. And then I'm going to put these potato chunks in a saucepan with 2.5 cups of cool water and boil them and cook them until they are tender, and then use an immersion blender to puree the potatoes with the cooking water until smooth. I deferred from the recipe a little bit with the rises. I mixed this dough and let it rise for about an hour, and then I folded it on top of itself a couple of times and then covered it for about another hour. Here I am stretching the focaccia on top of itself a couple of more times and removing it from this mixing bowl and placing it into a 9x13 Pyrex dish that I lined with parchment paper. And then on top of the parchment paper I put some olive oil just to ensure that the dough is not going to stick. And then once I put it in the baking dish, I folded it on top of itself about 8 times. And then let it rest for its final rise. I let it rise for another 2 hours in a slightly warmer area of the house. I put it in the area of our house where our fireplace is, so I wanted it to get as bubbly as possible. Now for toppings. I am putting some garlic cloves in a small saucepan with olive oil and cooking them until they are pretty tender. And then I'm going to drizzle this on top of the focaccia. And also these picante peppers from Trader Joe's. They're sweet with a creamy cheese inside. I'm also slicing these up to place these on top of the dough as well. The focaccia toppings are completely customizable, so whatever you're into, onions, tomatoes, garlic, whatever you can come up with, you can put on top of this focaccia before baking it in the oven, and it will all turn out pretty spectacularly, so get creative, guys.
All right, for the taste test of Jim Lahey's Focaccia, it turned out really nice, and I did it in a little bit smaller of a baking pan than was recommended, so it came out thicker, which is a positive for me. I'm glad that it turned out the way it did. It's very thick, very crunchy. I topped it with buffalo mozzarella, prosciutto, pesto, mayonnaise, tomatoes, and I drizzled a little bit of truffle oil on top. So it's about as rich as it gets. It tastes like fried pastry dough. It was really good. Very soft, and the outside is crunchy, and it's really light and airy. It's 10 out of 10. I would make again. And buy Jim Lahey's My Bread book. He also has My Pizza and Sullivan Street Bakery cookbook. I'll link all of them below, and yeah, this is a winner of Focaccia.